I'll start with the governance, and the starting mantra of both the SD6 group and also some of the discussions, particularly at the West Australian level, has been that there is no one-size model fits all. There is no one-size fits all as far as the governance of sport and rec organisations is concerned. And there's a universal or screaming agreement that in terms of governance, we need improvement at all levels, from clubs right through to regional levels, through state levels, and ultimately through national and international levels. There's much existing activity that's already been in the marketplace for 10 plus years. And the organisational sustainability program drives some of that. A number of you in the audience may have done AICD and directors courses, and there's been workforce development, there's been a menu of initiatives already. So in this jurisdiction, we were going in a reasonably good direction. There was a paper came out late last year by the Australian Sports Commission, and it was basically a discussion paper, finished up being quite provocative in that it had a fixation on governance structure. And there were some responses out of some meetings that were held late December in 2015. Then it went into a reasonably broad discussion process. For the SD6 reference group, they basically identified that this issue of governance and the notion of making sure we have real capacity in decision making, that we have real influence in planning at all levels of sport and rec organisations across the country, and the value that we must extract from the investment of public funding into West Australian sport and recreation. It was imperative that we had people involved in that process, that we weren't going to take direction, be compliant, etc. from on high. So in essence, that discussion paper that followed on, there's been a more recent iteration that's been circulated by through under Ron's signature, and if you've had a chance to read that, and there'll be some copies at the back end for those who haven't to take with them. It's a Sports Commission paper, but ultimately it's probably turned 180 degrees from where it was headed originally with a fixation on structure. And it now identifies that there are some multiple tiers of interest, whether that be local, state and federal government, whether that be club, regional, state and national bodies. That there is a really integrated system here, and that most of it is driven by volunteers, and that unless we enhance that capacity and keep that interest of Western Australians in particular, and that in the long run, if we don't do that, then the system as we know it and we value it and we invest in it will fall away. So that's where it's headed. The focus is now on aligned behaviours, and that's where it should have been in the first instance. Aligned behaviours, you in your respective activities, sport and rec organisations, you will ultimately have to work out what that means in your context. But aligned behaviours will be where it's going to be going forward, regardless of structure. There's also been a policy again circulated under Ron's signature around what the state investment policy framework is. And that's really reasonably straightforward, and that the first 2 or 3 points in particular. Leadership capacity is drawn locally. And the next one, decision-making responsibility with accompanying accountability is devolved. In other words, we want to be making decisions for Western Australia in Western Australia about what sport and rec gets delivered, how it gets delivered, and that it meets our context.